Wow, thank you everyone for joining us today. Happy International Women's Day a little early. We are doing this webinar in celebration of International Women's Day, that is tomorrow. And if you all would, as you're joining us, if you could put into the chat where you're joining us from and what your connection is with the topic or the university, or with if you're a super fan of Cheeto like we are, please go ahead and just share that in the chat. We do have quite a, I mean, it's not a long presentation, but it's a very dense presentation, and I want to make sure that we go ahead and start us off so that we don't have to cut anything short. I'm going to go ahead and just introduce myself. My name is Chris Reiser. I am the alumni coordinator, and I just want to say welcome to Future Generations University. Here we believe in the power of people working together to transform communities. We offer a master's degree in applied community development using the principle of learning while doing. Individuals from around the world apply methods and tools to create sustainable change within their own communities, which serve as their individual classrooms. The master's degree guides students to tackle real-world community challenges in areas such as strengthening local economies, livelihood development, environmental conservation, health, peace building, regenerative agriculture, education, food security, and so much more. Our unique seed scale methodology ensures that solutions are not only effective, but also locally driven and sustainable. Today, we are proud to celebrate our alumni, dedicated changemakers who are using what they've learned to uplift their communities, addressing pressing challenges, and inspiring others to do the same. This alumni success sharing session is a platform to highlight their incredible work, share valuable insights, and foster connections across our global network. We're excited to have you join us as we learn from one of our outstanding alumni and explore how she has applied education to drive meaningful change worldwide. So I would like to go ahead and invite our moderator, Deborah Sassauer, to introduce herself, and then I'm going to have our presenter, Chido, introduce herself right after Deborah, as that will lead directly into her presentation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good evening, namaste. As Chris said, my name is Deborah Sassauer. I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Communications at Future Generations University, and it's a privilege to step into the moderator role today. What some of you may know is my background is in fine art. That's where I have my undergrad and master's degree. But what may be less in is that I also minored in women and feminist theory in undergrad. And so today's presentation touches directly to some of the education and passion that I have felt from as a young woman. So one of the things that is a universal outcome of the feminist movement that I learned about is that the personal is political. And this is very true for women and girls. And it made me think about Chido, our presenter today, because not only does the work she did, does the work that you'll hear her describe impact for the better women and children, and then thus culture and society, but for her, even the road to getting to her success is rooted in her identity as a woman and a celebration of that. So, Chido, I'm so pleased to ask you to introduce yourself more fully and to be part of this conversation and presentation with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. Good morning. It's good afternoon here. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone, wherever you are. I'm happy to be with you today. And let me say happy International Women's Day, in as much as we are going to be having our formal International Women's Day tomorrow. But it gives me pleasure to have all of you today to celebrate International Women's Day. So in brief, my name is Chido Madiwa from Zimbabwe, and I'm an alumni from Future Generations Graduate School. And I am one person who has devoted her life to fighting for the rights of women, fighting for girls and women's empowerment, and making sure that whatever I do in my life, I'm changing the life of a certain lady, a certain woman, a certain girl somewhere, be it in mostly in my community, but it has taken me to trying to change the life of women in my country or beyond. So anything that has to do with women, the girl child, is a place in my heart. So that's in short, that's me, and I've devoted my life. I've worked for mostly public sector organizations. That has to do with with my desire, that is changing the life of a girl child, disadvantaged, marginalized woman. So I've been in government for over 20 years, worked in the Ministry of Women Affairs, and this is the ministry that in my country looks at how best we can change or we can empower women, look at our cultural background, our patriarchal system of the nature in our country, and in other ways to say how best can we change that. So in most of my work has been centered on women and girls. In terms of, like I said, how best we can change their lives. So today, I'm going to be talking about, to me, it's a success sharing story. Like Chris has highlighted, we are looking at real world challenges and how my education at Future Generations has helped me to share some of those challenges. And in this case, the challenges to me that I'm always looking forward to be changing challenges that has to do with the disadvantaged, the marginalized women, the marginalized girls. When I say marginalized girls, I'm looking at in my community, in my country, those that had no opportunity to go to school, that is no opportunity to own productive resources of their own. So to me, those are the people that I'm kind of looking at, and it is a pleasure for me to say then, how am I looking at how did the master's program in community change, how did it help me to solve? Because to me, it was a real problem. That's why most of my work was centered on the empowering of women. So that's the basis of my presentation today. So to start, let's go to the next slide, Chris. So let me give you a brief background of who Chido Madiwa is and why this desire to be, why is centering on girls and women. Someone will say, okay, Chido, you grew up, you started school, you went to the high school, to university. Why are you concerned about the girl child? Why are you concerned about women? This is my brief background. I grew up in a religious sect, that is the Johann Marangi Apostolic said in my country. That's where the church that I was born in, whose doctrine looks at, they don't believe in education for the girl child. They believe in preparing a girl child for marriage, that is planned marriages. So I was also a victim because I was born in this kind of, in this church. They believe in child marriages is, rampant in the church, and polygamy, you'll find one husband with maybe 12, 15 wives. So by grace, I did not experience that, but I was also a candidate for a planned marriage, a candidate for a child marriage, candidate for having a husband with other 10, 15 wives. So that's why I have this in my heart and say, okay, if I didn't experience, if I, by grace I did not then go through this, what can I do to make a difference? The difference is I have to change the life of another girl who is not privileged, who might not be as privileged as me, to not to face those kind of challenges that I've highlighted. So my work, I said, I will die making sure that there is another person's life that I have changed, because I mean, I could also have been, I have experienced that. I could also have been married at the tender age of 7 or 8 or 10, but because I did not go through it, and I had an opportunity to be enlightened and to see, to work in an environment that can give me that know-how to say, okay, how best can I help other girls who are going through other women who are going through this, looking at our system, the patriarchal system. Women, they do not have any productive resources. They don't have no access to finance, no access to education, no access. All they are doing is the reproductive role. That is, they're caregivers. They are just staying at women. And then you'll see that at that in this slide, that girl there, you see, is a pregnant girl at a very tender age. And she's pregnant. I think she's less than 14 years pregnant. And she actually died because she was not ready to have, I mean, you know, at that age, you cannot go through the process, the labor process. So because of complications, that young girl died. And it really touches then my heart to say, okay, we can't just leave this to happen in our society. How then can we help each other? And I'm glad that this masters now help me, especially if I'm looking at seed scale. I mean, you start a process, you scale it, and you'll be very much excited to see everything. I mean, working out for what your expectations. So these are some of the reasons that drove me to really say I want to make a difference in my community, in my very community that we are having, where we are having young women being exposed to such kind of things. So that's the church. You see that the white robe church. On the other side, there's a picture of the fellowship system, how they gather together and pray. But in most cases, that's such a gathering. One man will be going home with the 2 or 3 wives. I mean, because everyone is there, young girls are there, and everyone, you know. So at the end of the day, you have an opportunity to really marry another beautiful girl, young girl, from that kind of a Passover or a conference. So these are some of the practices in that church that I grew in. So these are the basis. That's my background, where I'm coming from. Okay, next slide. I think I've already spoken to this slide. So this is the church that saw me in that church that saw me in my childhood. And the next slide is I wanted to add. I mean, I'm forever grateful to my father. That's my father who helped me through. I mean, in my life, if I had not if I was not exposed to this kind of to men, my father, it was also going to be a different kind of life. He was we had a rural background, very rural. When in Africa when we say a rural background, we are coming from a poor background, subsistence agriculture. I mean, some people with a rural background during my time will not even have the opportunity to go to school. So this is the environment that I also grew up in. But I want to thank my father because he was a teacher, but he was also a teacher in that very church. So there was nothing that was going to prevent him from preparing also me for marriage, following the church's doctrine. But he went against the doctrine to say, I will never do this. I want my girl child to go to school. So this is that's why I'm saying I will forever be grateful, because he could have just say, no, this is the doctrine that we follow. So no two ways about it. You have to follow. I'm preparing no more going to school. I'm preparing for marriage. This is the man that you should marry. Maybe I could have been given a man who was maybe 10 to 15 or with 10, 15 wives. But he said, no, I would rather not, I would rather be excommunicated from this church than to say, Chido, be married to this man. Or to say, no, let me send my young girl for marriage. So I'm very grateful for that. So he was a farmer. By the way, my father is late, may he so rest in peace, but he did a great influence in my life. He is a banana grower. We are still enjoying the bananas up to now in as much as he's gone. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So that's me in my childhood. I attended, an Anglican all-girls mission school. So we are twin with my twin sister there. So you see an apostolic man with the two girls who are all not following the church doctrine, but the father is sending them to school. So that's me. On my right, and the lighter is my sister, my twin sister. So the two of us were sent to a boarding school, in a mission school in our area. And then after sending us to school, he was excommunicated because he had sent, he was educating girl children who were supposed to be married at the age that we were, but my father was sending us to school. So he was saying, you are no longer a member of our church. You do what you are doing. And then my father was saying, my pleasure, I'm happy to do that as long as my girls are protected. So he was there to protect us. So because of what my father did, he's a man who could have also believed what the other men in our church were doing, but he said, no, I will fight for my girl children. So I said, if my father is fighting for me, I also have to fight for other girls, for the rights of other girls in my community, in my country, and beyond. Next slide. Okay, so that's me following also my father's footprints. I'm also a farmer. I grew up to be a farmer, because I had witnessed the women just being housewives. They've no source of income. They are not doing anything. So I said, no, I will not be like those women. I want to be my father. So I'm also a farmer. I have a 62-hectare farm where I'm growing bananas. Like you see me there, I'm sourcing banana from my village to send to my farm. And below is me in my crop field. So I'm also into piggery. I'm also into poultry. So I was trying to go against and to be a role model in my community, to say a woman can do what men can do. So as a woman, now women from my community will come to my place to look for kind of piece jobs, like cultivating in the fields, and they will be saying, is this really yours? Is this really yours? And I said, yes, it's mine. So women can do this. And I said, yes, women can do that. So everyone now will be saying, oh, I wish I was there. Is this true? So I was doing this as also to show women that nothing is impossible. As long as they are determined, nothing is impossible in their lives. And then, so in terms of education, my father educated me from primary school to high school. I went to the University of Zimbabwe for my first degree, and then to Africa University for my master's degree. And then when I was just about to finish my master's degree, I then went to the, of course, I then started my second master's degree with Future Generations graduate school, which really now is given me the opportunity to say, okay, so whatever I want, I can scale whatever I am doing in my community, so that the effects are felt beyond my community, that is in my country and beyond. I also have a diploma from the University of Johannesburg and other several certificates from different universities, Maastricht, University of Pretoria. Those are certificates. I have several other certificates on gender, because I really wanted to learn more in terms of exclusion, issues of exclusion, issues of justice, issues of women empowerment, and issues of girl child empowerment, issues of gender, issues of the feminist theory, like theories like one of our panelists is highlighted. So I wanted to get more knowledge in terms of how best can I achieve, what can I do to make sure that we change the lives of other disadvantaged girls in our society. But of course, my master's degree in community change to future generations, it really made a difference because it's practical. The university is not like I'm sitting in a lecture room. I am sitting in the community, and I'm looking at what the community is doing, how best can they help themselves, and how best can they change their lives. So it was very interesting for me, because I am learning and doing my work at the same time, experimenting with my community and community members, trying to come up with their own solutions to solve their problems. And these solutions included, because my community was a community that was full of these people from the John Maranga Apostolic Church, where child marriages, women marginalization was rampant. So I was working with the real people who were affected, and then say, how best can we solve this? In yourselves as the victims, how best can you come up with solutions so that we can help each other? So I started my master's in 2012, and then by then I was the provincial director responsible for women and for gender and women affairs in Manicaland province, and I was into girl child empowerment, gender mainstreaming, and community development. So I started this program in 2012. And during the time I was doing the program, I was working in same communities where we had victims. And then I started to use seed scale. I started to use the concepts with the people themselves to say, okay, how best can you help them, help yourselves? Next slide. So that's the seed scale learning process. Started from the Gandhi ashram. I realized Bethany Lewis is with us, and some people, more of our people in our classroom. So that's my 2014 class. There we were in the United States at the Public School of Health, Public Health Institute. And today, that's our graduation. There we're in the ashram. It's Gandhi's ashram. And the other one, I think we were in Nepal. I see Alida there. I see Amos. These are my classmates, my classmates that I had in 2014. So I learned about community-based conservation in Nepal and Namibia, public health enhancement, public health. This was very important, public health, because this church that I'm talking about doesn't also allow children to seek, anyone in the church to seek medication. You are supposed to be healed by faith. And you can imagine the number of children, the number of people who dies in that church because they are not seeking medication. So it's a belief. Even if you want to you talk to someone who is on his or her deathbed to say, okay, can you please get medication? They will say, no. Even if I die, I'll go to heaven. So these are some of the things that I was saying to myself. I have to look into them and try to see how best we can change this. I was also The next slide. Maybe the other slide is just a matter of just scroll, a quick scroll at them, because I want to zero in on how best we can change policies to really make a difference, or how we can change policies to make a difference. There I was a national director, and of course I was looking at policy development level, where I crafted the national gender policy, the community development policy, and we also part and parcel of establishing the Women's Empowerment Bank, the Women's Bank, so that at least women had access to capital for their projects. And the Women Economic Empowerment Framework that we came up with. I also attended COMESA meetings for gender, for the Gender Technical Committee, gender mainstreaming. I had several meetings that were giving me the knowledge to say, okay, what shall I do to make sure that we assist women in different scenarios? And the best principle that came, that I got now, is from, because when I did my master's at with the Future Generations, I was still the national I was now the national director gender. So this is when I was studying seed scale, the 5 criteria, the issues of inclusion, issues of sustainability, issues of interdependence, issues of all this I learned when I was still the national director, when I was doing my master's degree at the same time. The 4 principles, which is very, to those who have gone through, I understand we have various people who are in here. We are now alumni. The principles, seed scale principles, building from success. You are not starting anything new, but we are building from that success. You identify the successes in your own communities and you build from them. How was I supposed to identify successes in terms of looking at disadvantaged girl child who are being married young, who are not going to school, women who had no access to capital, who are not doing any projects, but who are just there to do and mind you, we all know that women's work is not even considered as women. In as much they are doing most of the reproductive work, it's not considered as women. You are supposed to look to do some care work. You are supposed to be looking for the children, looking after the children, but no one considers this to be work. It's supposed to be, you are supposed to do that, but it's not work. You don't get tired. Even if someone comes midnight, they are hungry, we have to wake up and do some work. So these are some of the issues that I had in my background. So I started learning from my community. And picked issues that needed address from these interactions. You will find in that the bottom picture, we are at the ashram, where I'm getting knowledge on how to learn from success, or learn from what can you learn from your community. And then the top, the 2 top pictures, you see me there discussing with my communities. I had to build rapport with my communities, so that I identify themselves. In as much as now I'm a national director, I want to identify myself with those people, so that they open up. They get to give me all the issues for discussion. So there, I was trying to get information from the village elders, from the village women, so that at least as we are discussing, they also feel empowerment, because I was also looking at behind my back. I'm saying I want to look at what they would consider to be their only solutions to the problems they are having. So most of my time I spent with my community members, and learned what their problems were, and how best we can solve those problems. So because I was at policy level, I'm now the national director. I'm at policy level. We are developing policies, like I said. I crafted the national gender policy and other policies, and made sure that they are implemented. We came up with the the policy strategy, national gender policy strategy, to say, okay, how best can we implement some of the issues that we feel they can help in terms of empowering the girls. And in my discussions with the women, this is what they came up with: youth unemployment issues, poverty, child marriages, virginity testing for girls, hunger, poor infrastructure, polarization of communities, no entertainment. And then I said, now I'm at policy level. People, and these problems women are identifying, not only women, even the village elders, they identified them themselves. I did not impose to say, I see child marriages here, I see poor women here. I did not do that. I say, okay, what problems are we having? They will identify those problems, and at the end of the day, we'll come to the root problem, to say, okay, so the problem is poverty here. How come we are being poor? So they will also be, because I'm building rapport, they are free now to say, oh, because we did not go to school, so that's why we are poor. Those who have gone to school are not poor. So maybe if I have my children, and I remember another girl saying, I will not allow my child to get married at a tender age, because this is what happened to me. That's why I'm poor. So they are coming up with problems and solutions themselves. So myself as a technocrat and someone who is, learning seed skill, now I will sit down and say, how best now can I solve this problem? I have policies, we have policies, the national gender policy, we have this and that. How best now in terms of implementation, in terms of how best can we improve? What came into my mind in terms of scaling up my quest for women or girl child empowerment, I say to myself, okay, maybe at legislative level, I can make more difference. If I become a member of parliament, I think I will have a voice in parliament. So every time I will be speaking in parliament on these issues, I had the necessary tool, that is seed skill. So all I needed to do was to make sure I win a seat in parliament. Because to me, I said, if I do this, I will have several other pieces of legislation that will help me fight, child marriage, the problems that are being identified by my communities. So all I needed was to make sure that I win a seat in parliament. So I was now trying to garner for a vote in a constituency with the 40,000 registered voters. So in this case, already when the moment I was doing meetings, I was having meetings with people in my community, it was the beginning of trying to make sure that I'm known. So I was known now to the extent that everyone was talking about that woman who doesn't want children to get married. For men in that church, they will say, we don't want to see that lady. She will say bad things to our girls and they will fight us. So no, don't allow her to come where we are gathering or where we are having our girls and women. She will influence them. But I say to myself, no, if I go and talk to them, I will not win their hearts. But if it is law, if no one can go against the law. So let me scale up my strategy and go to parliament, where I'm going to craft laws and everyone has to follow that law. So I fought my way to parliament, and of course, I won. You see me there getting congratulations, because now I'm in parliament. Now I'm I can sit in parliament and set a motion, and you'll find that in parliament, most of my work was on women. Of course, when you go to parliament, you are looking at all issues across the board, but most of my work was on women's issues. So if someone is debating about energy, I will bring women's issues in parliament. And to make my life easier, because of my knowledge on women and gender, I was made the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Women Affairs, Gender and Community Development. So I had oversight role on the executive, the Ministry of Women Affairs, that I was working, that I already know. Remember, I was the national director in the ministry. Now I am the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee that is overseeing that ministry, how it is doing its work in terms of women empowerment and coming up with the programs and policies for women empowerment. So that also made my work very easy. So all other ministries in terms of gender mainstreamings, now because I'm the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Gender, I say to myself, in Parliament, I remember standing up in Parliament to say, Mr. Speaker, I want all these other committees, be it committee on environment, be it committee on mining, they should mainstream issues of gender. We want to see how women's issues are being tackled in those committees. In the committee on the finance committee, we want to see how funds are being allocated to women, to issues of women. So you see, I had now more power to really scrutinize even how the budget, the national budget, is being distributed. So this also helped me because you'll find that in terms of allocation, there was an increase in allocation to the social sector areas in terms of the education, health. We actually in education, there is a basic education assistance program that was designed and is still there to assist girl children who are not going to school. So every time now I'll be saying, okay, can you allocate more resources to this program so that we see more girl children being sent to school, those who cannot afford, there's a fund for them to benefit from so that at least they can be assisted to go to school. So the positive outcomes that came from the from Parliament, you'll find that because I was chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Women Affairs and Gender, we came up with a minimum mandatory sentence for rape and sexual harassment policy in the public service. Yes, it's in the public service. We were discussing also those issues like unpaid care work. We had better budget allocations for women's programs, a better education assistance program for women, the one that I talked about. And you'll find that we also came up with other pieces of legislation. Like I've talked about the minimum mandatory sentence for rape. I came up with this one. I just said because as you work, you have other partners that you are working with. So I just mobilized civil society organizations to say, please, can you write a petition to Parliament? Direct the petition to my committee. Write a petition to Parliament to say, okay, we are experiencing some increase in the number of people, young girls that are being raped. There's sexual harassment in the public service. Just write a petition to the speaker. He will forward the petition to me. So civil society organizations, of course, I give them a pam for that. It did not take 2 days for them to write a petition to Parliament. And just like I had said, the petition was brought to me, to my committee. And I went back, to the same civil society organizations, to the same communities to say, okay, we have this petition. Let's see, let's go for public consultation to see if this is really happening. So we had public consultation throughout the country to consult to the same communities so I went to my community as well, to my village, and said, okay, this is a petition that came from other people. There's issues of rape are on the rampant. What can we do? You will not believe they came up with their own solutions to say, okay, Parliament, we want you to give these people more than 100 years in jail if they rape a young girl. If anyone marries a child who is below 18, we want to make sure that that person is put to jail. That person is given life in jail. So the solutions are coming from them. This is the community, of course, where I am also a member of parliament. So I'm still going back to them to say, when I came this other day and we were sitting under that tree, you highlighted issues of women being poor. You highlighted issues of women not going to school and getting married early. Well, a lot of issues. Now I am coming. So issues were coming from, solutions were coming from these communities. And when I came up with this piece of legislation in Parliament, it really helped because it also solved the issues of child marriages. Because from that time, when I was in Parliament, no one is expected to marry someone who's below 18 years. No one is expected to rape a young child. If you do that, before you even go to court, if you rape, already the minimum mandatory is 15. So already you have 15 years in jail before you are even taken to court. So before even the judge looks at the circumstances, whatever happened, already you have 15 years aside. This is the minimum years that you are getting. And then there will be added, the judge will see the situation, the case and circumstances, and you will be given maybe 30 years more. So it will be 45 years in jail or more than that. But the community itself, it actually said, we want them to rot in jail. So make sure that they are given more than 50 years. So other positive outcomes in Parliament in terms of scaling up issues of women empowerment. We had participation of women MPs in Parliament. So I had to lobby. I lobbied and advocated with other women who were in Parliament to say, for any motion that I bring to Parliament, please support me because I have this cause. Look at this woman. Look at this girl who has just died because she got pregnant at a tender age and she could not go to labor. Her system was not prepared at that age to have a child. So please help me. And you will not believe me. In Parliament, every issue that I will raise, it will get support, even from the opposition, because everyone will be affected by such issues. So we'll find that my issues were different because I got support. In Parliament, it's not very easy for different parties to support each other. You have your party. When you are talking, everyone is there, even especially those from the other party. They are there to crush you. They are there to make sure that what you are saying does not. But with my issues, you find that because of the lobbying, because of whatever the advocacy, lobbying, and networking with other members of Parliament, I got a lot of support. So there was an increase participation of various social groups also in the business of Parliament. The women, youth, persons with disabilities, the children. We ended up establishing another committee, that is the Child Rights Committee, Disability Caucus, the Youth Caucus in the 9th Parliament, because these issues affecting children were now they were sensitive, and everyone was kind of so touched that they found justification in having separate committees discussing issues of children, especially those marginalized. There was also the adoption of a social inclusion approach to national budget process in Parliament. And we ended up having male MPs signing he for she, becoming he for she champions, and actively advancing the rights of women in Parliament. So you see, I'm taking the issues of women and girls to another level in Parliament, where I'm saying, no, let's protect our girls. Because I was doing it when I was still in the public service as an officer. But to me, it was not. I had to look for another strategy of scaling up. So in Parliament now, I'm coming up with pieces of legislation that will help protect our girl child children, our young people. I also ended up establishing civil society organization clusters, that is the women's rights, youth, children's rights, and persons with disabilities. I think I talked to this one. So these are some of the issues that I would zero in when I was in Parliament. And after that, then I will also continue with my women empowerment programs in my constituency. Remember, I'm now a member of Parliament. So I would now still go back to those communities. You see me standing there. I was a member of Parliament. I'm going back to my communities. You find the majority of those people here are from that sect. So I'm teaching them on the pieces of legislation that I'm trying to put in place to protect them. So I continued with my women engagements so that I take real women and girl issues to Parliament. So I'm trying to make sure that I continue with my issues of protecting women. You'll find in the next slide, I'm also with another different group of women. The one there where I'm seated, I'm taking the hazard to our women's groups in the village. That is the parliamentary discussion, so that at least they see that their issues are being taken to Parliament. Because, as a politician, you want to make sure that whatever they are saying is taken to Parliament. But of course, being a technocrat, most of the issues that I was zeroing on had something to do with the empowerment of women, the protection of the girl child, in as much as, of course, we had other issues, of course, access to water. But to me, for example, if I look at access to water, it is critical because it also affects the person who is affected more is the woman. If I look at the issues of the environment, critical because the person who is affected more is a woman. So you'll find that it was very exciting even to discuss different issues across all sectors, because then I will take them to Parliament. Besides forwarding this to the relevant portfolio committee, I would also them ask questions to I would also ask questions in terms of how they are including women's issues in their various programs, be it mining, be it environment, be it energy, be it in transport, all committees, gender issues cuts across. So in any committee, in Parliament also, I asked the speaker to say, okay, can I be allowed to sit in every committee so that I also contribute women's issues in those committees? It's scaling up because I'm saying, okay, how many committees do we have? If you have 20 committees, and I want to mainstream gender in those committees. I want to sit in those committees and see how best we can take women's issues on board in those committees. To me, that was a plus because I'm now taking those issues at another level. So that is exactly what I was doing in Parliament. And then after my 5 years elapsed in Parliament, I found myself being appointed as a commissioner. That is my current job now. I'm a commissioner in the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. And to me, okay, I'm a commissioner. I'm the chairperson of the Prevention and Corporate Governance Committee at Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission. But to me, behind my back, I'm looking at the effects of corruption, especially to a marginalized person, to women and girls. So I'm doing my work with that in mind to say, okay, I'm now a commissioner. I'm taking my women empowerment issues at another level. Because I remember when we were coming up with our strategy, that's our corruption strategy. The first thing I said was, okay, let's also look at how corruption affects women and girls. So let's make sure that gender issues are taken on board when we are looking at these corruption and issues in terms of prevention, in terms of how best we can end corruption. So that's me in the next slide, giving a speech at another conference that I had attended on how best we can end corruption. So these are the following slides are just it's me attending different forums in my current job. But to me, behind my back, I'm saying behind my back, I'm saying I'm taking women empowerment issues. I've been to Parliament. I crafted policies. I crafted pieces of legislation which are being implemented now. Because now, and if I see someone being given 20 years in jail, I said I always feel great and say, this is my product. This is what I did. Where I see people saying, no, don't touch a girl who is less than 18 years old. I always say to myself, I clap at myself and say, thank you, Lord. At least I've done something in Parliament. But now now I'm a commissioner. So it's a different kind of environment. But because my interest is on women and girls, of course, I'm looking at prevention of corruption across the board. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at the effects on women and girls, and I want to make sure that we eradicate corruption of any kind. So you see me there. I'm now in Vienna at a corruption conference. It's taking corruption beyond, getting best practices from other nations in terms of how best they are ending corruption. So I think that's all I can say today. And I was just giving you some highlights of how scaling up programs, or how this my master helped me in my quest for women empowerment, women and girl child empowerment. I started as an officer, as a public sector officer, and then I scaled up to another level where now I was crafting laws, and of course I changed several pieces of legislation to protect women and girls, and to make sure that resources are available. So because the issue is also looking at empowered women who can stand on their own to say, I can do whatever I want to do. I am financially sound. So all these are some of the programs that I was now trying to craft in Parliament when budgets are being done, making sure that budget allocations to the Women's Bank, where women can have access to capital, are well funded, so that the bank is capitalized to finance women's programs. I thank you, and I hope my short presentation made sense to you. Thank you. Maybe questions and answers. Questions from members from those who are listening.
Thank you, Chido. I'm going to invite Deborah to come back on with her video, and I'll let her and you, Chido, take this next part of the question and answer. I see a couple questions already in the chat.
Yes. Chido, thank you so much. What an exceptional presentation. I feel like I've had the privilege of hearing you speak on seed scale in courses and as an educator with us, and yet I still find I learn something new every time I get a chance for you to share more of your history and the context. So thank you so much. So there are a number of questions that were brought in prior to the presentation, but we have a few people who are active with us today who have questions. And the first one I want to ask is from Bill. Now, you mentioned that you were very inspired and very appreciative of your father, who stepped in to help his girl children and to help you particularly. So you took a lot of inspiration, and you took the opportunities that he gave you and you ran with them and wanted to expand those opportunities to other young people. But Bill asked us if there were women or particular women who also helped encourage you or inspired you or mentored you um, to help you see a better and brighter future beyond your childhood situation.
Yes, a lot of women. I was inspired, to start with. For example, I mentioned that my father has been my source of he has done everything for me. He was a teacher. When I was still a young girl, I think I was in grade 1 or 2. My father, the first woman who inspired me, we had, at our primary school, there are certain undergraduates who would visit schools, those who were doing Bachelor of Arts in age, or those who were doing education degree programs. They are required by the nature of their programs. They go to schools and do some practical work in those schools. So my father, I didn't know what was happening. We just find we have a new, this is Miss Sorenso. She will be with us for the next 2 weeks. They knew she was doing her practical, but we didn't know. We would just say we have a visitor. But then my father would say, come, come, come. I want to tell you something. And I said, what is it, Dad? Then you say, you saw that girl, that woman, that lady who came into your classroom. And I said, yes, that one. She's a BA student at the University of Zimbabwe. You should be like her, look at how she was walking, how she was talking. Will you be like her? Please make me proud by becoming a BA. So to my father, holding a Bachelor of Arts in Education, it was something. So I said, okay, so that one is a BA candidate, that is an undergraduate. So those were the first women to inspire me. Those BA undergrads who were coming to our school to do some practical work. So every time they were coming now, I would say, but she's a woman and she's a BA. So the word BA to me means different from the way it means to you. Because to me, even today, someone says, I'm doing BA, in as much as a lot of people are doing BA, but the way my father said, she is a BA undergraduate student, it meant a whole lot. And I think it changed my life because I said, I want to do BA.
Yeah,
Something like
that's
that.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with my father was a professor, and so I also had the absolute privilege to be inspired by the educators who came in who were women, who were strong, who were, I can relate to that very well. Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
I had meant to say this at the beginning of our Q&A session, but I just wanted to remind everyone here and anyone who might be watching that all of these questions are going to be reposted on the Facebook group that services our alumni and global network. And this video is being recorded and it will be shared in the coming days following the presentation. So whatever we don't have a chance to get through this morning, we'll definitely have an opportunity and we'll be sharing these questions and your responses more widely. The next question I want to share is from the estimable Daniel Taylor, who I know you have worked so extensively with since all the way back from probably even before 2012. But he wanted to ask you to share a little bit more. You have been so inspirational in this presentation, but we know that you did face some challenges, right? You were challenging powerful people, and that not only impacted the ability to do the work to change policy, maybe even had an impact on your personal life, and so he wanted you to see if you would speak a little bit more to the challenges you might have faced and the ways that you overcame maybe personal danger or kind of more existential policy dangers that were happening.
Thank you, Deborah. When I get that question, I'm always, I get excited because when people talk about challenging people, those who are powerful, those who are well-resourced, millionaires, they will think Chido, who doesn't have anything, cannot challenge those people. But let me tell you, my road to parliament proved that money is nothing when you want to do your work. Just like we are learning from seed scale.
Mm-hmm.
So most people would start to say, no, but I don't have money to buy materials for this. Chido, do you have money for campaigns? Do you have money And in my case, Deborah, my rival was a businessman with the supermarkets all over the country. She had nothing. She was just a civil servant who was coming, and you want to compete with that person. But the seed scale tells us that money is not the solution to solving your problems. As long as you are determined, you are in your community, you identify your problem, and you come up with a solution to your problem, you can do anything. Just like when I wanted to go to Parliament, I said, remember, I'm sitting down with these women under a tree and asking them their problems. We are starting from somewhere to where we want to be. My question is, okay, we are here. We want to go there. What do you think we can do? Together, we sit down and come up with solutions to our problems. And in mobilizing, you want to make sure that all of you, your whole constituents, is on the same page. They are not looking at someone who is coming to give you money to buy bread today, but tomorrow you don't have bread. You want to look at someone who will make sure that they assist you. We are talking of, sustainable, those principles that we are talking about, sustainability. Are our solutions sustainable?
Yeah.
So what can we do to make sure that our solutions are sustainable? That's when I teach them about that. I mean, the three-way partnership from seed scale, bottom up, top down, inside ins. But who is the most important person in the equation? It's the community. These people are coming to, but the community is the best person they are the one who looks at their problem. Like I said, you don't have to go into a community and say, I see you are poor, so I want to help you so that you become rich. The people have to identify themselves as poor and say, we are poor ourselves. But I think if we do A, B, C, D, we can become millionaires. And then you come as a seed scale, as an MA seed scale, applied community change student. You are the technocrat now. That's why I said, I was so excited with this program, because already I'm in a university, but the university is the community that I'm working in. So every day I'm in the classroom. You are Daniel Taylor is in America. Who was my other? Christy is in America. But I'm here in my poor village, in my classroom, working with my community and identifying our problems and say, we don't need money. But of course, we have this concept where we can have the government coming to help us. Outside ins, we have partner civil society organizations that I was talking about. I told to you about how I came up with this piece of legislation. I used the civil society organizations. They are the ones who raised the petition. These are outside ins coming to help. I said, can you please raise a petition to Parliament? I will take it head on. And as it came, it resulted in us coming up with the minimum mandatory sentence for rape.
Yeah.
18 years. So these are some of the things that maybe, Bill, I will say to you. There's no one who is powerful. The most powerful person is the community. And yourself as a technocrat, you come in and work together with the community. So you can have, if you want to do politics, Bill, like me, don't even look at who is this one? The millionaires in America, and say they have a lot of money, they can campaign, and you don't need money, but you need lasting solutions to our community problems. I don't know whether you answered.
No, what I'm gathering is what you're saying is that because you built communion in community, you had the emotional support and you kind of had the intellectual support to meet some of these challenges, and it wasn't reliant on financial resources, but on human energy to help
Yes.
push back against the people who were pushing against you. This kind of leads to a question from Bethany. one of your classmates too, who asks, you know, affecting policy change doesn't happen overnight. Um, and so you've managed to achieve a lot of law changes and policy changes. And so she wanted to ask if you could describe the steps that were needed that needed to happen and kind of like over time in Parliament to see these changes come into being.
Thank you, Bethany. How are you? Wherever you are, Bethany Lewis, I miss you so much. Yes, policy is a process. Policy making is a process. If you, okay, I did policy. There are certain stages that you follow in terms of coming. Of course, you have to identify the problem. You have to, it's a process. But that's why now, you know, when we were making policy in the ministry, when I was still working for the ministry, there was no option. You had to go through all this, all the stages of policy making. If it is a piece of legislation you want to, an act that you want to come up with, you start by coming up with a bill. It's a process. You want to to come up with a bill. The bill goes to where it is approved. It goes to cabinet. It goes to, it's a whole lot of process. But now in Parliament, there were, quick ways of doing it. That's why, for example, in my case, my speaker will always say, if there are urgent issues, ask your constituencies to bring them to Parliament straight as petitions. That's why I used the petition system. It was quick. This minimum mandatory sentence, it didn't take me, I don't think it took 5 months or 4 months to come up with. It's a quicker way. So in Parliament now, I had other strategies of coming up with different pieces of legislation. Unlike when I was still in government, you had to follow the policy making process. But now, so my work now, because future generations taught me how to mobilize communities to scale up issues, my homework was made simple, because I would go to my constituents. If I know, for example, next week there's a consultation that is coming, because in Parliament everything goes to the people. They will need to be consulted and agree or disagree. So my strategy, because I am now a seed scale graduate, I would go to the community and mobilize, scale up people who support that bill. You see? And do you allow children to be married at 16 years? They are mature. They can be married at 16 years or at 18. I did a lot of work, including partnering with other organizations. I went into the village, put people in groups to say, okay, please, can you teach each other, different villages, to say Parliament is coming next week. If they say, okay, do you want to be married at what age? Let's all agree that it is 18. So it went viral. Everyone was saying 18, 18, 18, because before they go, use the seed scale to scale up people who support that bill.
That's
and
great.
you are done. So Parliament had other strategies of making sure that important issues are brought to government's attention quickly.
This is great to hear, because one of the questions that had come in prior to your presentation was about advice that you have for people who do want to influence the people in their community from the top down, which is the role that you have worked to achieve yourself. So you've said using petitions as a strategy, using seed scale to activate your community so that they are ready to meet the question of, determination and governance at the time that those questions are then asked. Do you have other advice for people who are here, who might be listening to this recording, for ways that if they're in the work that they're doing in community, they see solutions that they do want to bring to the top down? How do you advise them to go about doing that? If they don't already have a direct connection to the person who might be representing them in a government entity?
That is very easy, Deborah, because the way government is structured is such that it is down to the village. And I'm always excited that any issue it depends who you are approaching. For example, in our system, for example, we have local government at village level, where we have the councillor. The councillor is in the village. You can, I mean, the councillor is one person that you interact with on daily basis. But if you have a very effective councillor, your issue is the moment you tell the councillor your issue, from that time it is taken to a higher level. But I will not trust those people, because this is that person might not have the capacity to do that. But you can also have I don't know how best, like I'm saying, in our case, we have the petition system. At lower level, even those who cannot read and write, they can come up with a petition and send it to a higher office. So these are some of the issues. They cannot read and write. They can write something in their local language to say, we don't want this, and take that to Parliament. In my case, I'm saying in Zimbabwe, that's the system we have. Everyone have access. It's an open Parliament has an open door policy. So if you raise your petition, even at the lowest level, it can be heard at the higher level.
Yeah, no, I think that's such an important way to break things down, that it's kind of de-essentializing kind of like these, silos between, like, like someone who's so far away from maybe the top of the top up, but there are going to be steps in local government that you can connect with that can then lead to regional and then national and then and beyond. Masafari had a question. She wanted to ask you to speak a little bit more on the Women's Bank that you mentioned, and you mentioned it at the end of the presentation. And she asks, did it grow directly from women's owns VSLA savings and capital, or were there additional startup support from the government or other partners? And how successful is it now in terms of outreach and women's economic empowerment? I'm sorry, he asks this question.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. How are you, Msafiri? You have touched something that is very dear to me. In Zimbabwe, the Women's Bank, every time people mention about the Women's Bank, I'm proud to say I crafted the Women's Bank and how it should operate. When I was still the national director in the Ministry of Women Affairs, it was actually under me. And up to now, I'm still calling the chief executive officer to say, okay, so what are you doing these days? Because, it is one of my babies, the Women's Bank. Why? Because we were saying women need access to capital to do their projects. So, of course, you talked about the village savings and credit, those small, savings and credit. It's different. These are still there, and they are very important in terms of access to capital for rural women who might not want much, but still need capital. And they are all over. I'm sure the system is also in your country, Msafiri, where women, they just, if they have 5 cents, they give, they pull their 5 cents together, they give to Chido. I want to do a poultry project. I do it. I pay back. Someone also benefits. That's access to capital at that level. But then I was saying to myself, no, we want women, millionaires, not just rearing 100 chickens. We want people who are farmers like myself. I want to buy a tractor. I can't do that from a 5 cents contribution. So we want the Women's Bank. That's why I started it when I was still an officer. So, and it was established. It has been decentralized to all provinces and to all villages. So anyone who wants to buy, these days I was listening, I'm for anything that I had a hand, I always listen to say, where are they now? And I was listening recently, and I could see women buying tractors for their farms, women going to borrow money to mechanize their farms, to do their cross-border. They are not only now doing, of course, we have women who do cross-border. They go to this country, they buy these items, they maybe eat clothing, and they bring and sell. But now we have women importing in quantities. It could be different products. Using the Women's Bank, they just go and borrow, they come and sell, they pay back. And the bank has been very successful because women are honest. They don't want to do. Women are, I'm not saying it's given, but generally because of our nature, it's just like saying women carry a baby for 9 months. It's one skill that we have of being honest. Women are honest, they pay back, they go and borrow. So the bank has been very successful. And in Parliament, because I had established the bank when I was still in the ministry, now in Parliament, I was always fighting with the Minister of Finance to say, please capitalize the Women's Bank. It needs more money. You are giving them insufficient capital. And when I left, it had fully been capitalized. A lot of money was given to the Women's Bank and the women benefiting from the bank. So whenever someone speaks about the Women's Bank, I always lift my and say, that's me. It's one of my babies. Thank you, Safiri.
Chido, a question's coming in from Daniel, and he's saying that religious organizations are so powerful. Can you share some of the experiences with religious groups that were not your own church?
Thank you, Daniel Taylor, for that question. Yeah, religion is, that's one of those areas. Religion and politics, of course. Those are very sensitive kind of areas. But my experience with this, of course, this was one religious group, but there were several other religious organizations that were also having the same problems. And this is why I had to go to Parliament, because I wanted to make it law. It's different from me convincing you to say, please don't marry a 15-year-old girl. You will say, for what reason? We have been doing this for 100 years, and you are coming to tell us not to do this. Look at all these other churches. They agree with us. That's why I went to Parliament. If you make it law. Now, let me tell you, Daniel, the bishop, the highest person in this, who was recently appointed the bishop, of this religious group that used to have child marriages. He is going about teaching his sect to say, those who are marrying children who are under 18, don't come to me to say, please, I've been found wanting. Don't do that. And they've started building their own schools with the support of their church leaders. So when it is law, no one you can go against the law. Even if you are from church, whatever, A, B, C, D, you will have to follow the law. Daniel, you are saying you are avoiding the challenge of religion and women's priorities. Some religions are disagreeing with you. I want more details. Maybe I'm not getting your question, Daniel. Deborah, can you help me explain? I don't know what Daniel wants me to.
Well, let me see if I can put a little bit of different color on it.
Maybe unpack the question. You can try to unpack the question for me.
So I think you spoke to the success that you had in Parliament on lobbying, right? You lobbied your fellow parliamentarians, but we also know that the religious groups have a strong lobby in government as well. And so, you're saying that by going into Parliament and creating laws, then even religious groups have to honor that law. And I think what Daniel's asking is that there's still basically, how are you using seed scale, not just individual behavior change, but culture change? So he just,
Okay.
yeah, Daniel wants to just dig deeper into the, not only, so you've created a powerful tool to come against religious leaders who would say that child marriage is okay because their faith allows it. By having a a non-faith-based law, but are there other challenges that you've overcome and other ways that you've pushed back from these religious lobbies in government?
Uh, okay. I think it's going to be, I mean, I'm sorry to say, I'm having challenges in answering that question because I'm not getting it, maybe. But the challenge, like you are avoiding the challenge of religion and women's priorities, some religions. Maybe, Deborah, what are the women's priorities that we are looking at here? For example, just give me one example of women's priorities and as it relates to the challenges of religion.
All right, I don't know if this is true, but let's imagine that there are religions that do not um, support women getting their BAs. They think that a woman can have her education through high school, but then after that, her role might be as a wife or mother. So they might have a lobby in government to say that to enact a law that supports women in these other ways, or with the Women's Bank, for example. Just some of the other ways that you have overcome those challenges.
I think most of those have been dealt with at household level. For
Mm,
example, because as we are a religious sect, we are not just coming together as we are all religious people coming from a religious group, but these are households that are contributing to a religious sect. Household A, household B, and then they are learning from others. Those who are sending a child to school are having a better life than those who are not sending their children to school. So as they learn from each other, they will then say to, okay, so we can continue to say we don't want to send our children to school. But look at this family. They've sent their girl child to school. Chido is now a member of parliament. She's supporting, and the whole family is kind of. So we can also do the same. So it's more of learning from each other and learning from the positives that are coming from people who are doing something different, things differently. Maybe, I don't know.
yeah, well, what I'm hearing, Chido, is that you're saying that you by implementing a strategy of staying intimately connected with your constituency and by going back into the communities and never straying from that engagement, you are finding real world examples that are live and that can actually inspire people who might have different across a divide of belief, right? So you're finding the commonalities that bring people together, even if they might approach it from a different, faith-based or culture-based background. So yeah, so having
Yes,
you mentioned like the young girl who was impregnated and who died um, from complications of that pregnancy. Like that is a heartstrings issue that can speak beyond,
yeah,
anyone who might not know her personally, right?
the same. Yes, Deborah, I can also say in terms of health, for example, I think I highlighted that most people in this religious sect, they do not believe in going to a healthy center or getting medication. Now, the death rate in those families is always very high. You'll find people in those in these churches every day they are burying a young child. From this, it could be from this family, another from that family. But to those who are getting, I mean, the exposure and the education, the good in terms of getting primary health care, people will then say, no, but you see, that family B, they don't experience the death rates like we are experiencing in our area. And then people say, no, because they are getting medication. Is that so? Yes. Oh no, my God, I will not allow my child to die. Let me do like they are doing. So as of now, you will find that they are still in that sector, but the people are going for medication. Even without other people knowing, for those that are very strong believers, they will go behind I mean, without anyone knowing. They are drinking their medication, no one knows. But people will just see them moving and being healthy. They don't tell anyone that they are taking medication. So these are some of the experiences that the learning experience that they learn amongst themselves and say, okay, this is the best practice. Let me also do the same. Otherwise, all my children will die.
Yeah, so we're talking about positive deviance here. So it's another great principle. We're getting low on time. We only have 5 more minutes. So I have one final question for you for now, and then we will briefly share the next alumni success sharing for Earth Day and give us all a chance to say thank you and goodbye. But the last question I have for you, Chido, this morning is what's coming next? So thinking about International Women's Day, which is tomorrow, March 8th, and thinking about your new scale, role as commissioner, um, what do you see as the next steps for you for policy that will help improve the rights and abilities of women and girl children in society?
Okay, you know, it's a process. And where we are, I want to give credit to where we are, for example, as a country. I think looking at where we are coming from and where we are going, a lot has been done. And I want to give credit to my government, which has been a very influential in terms of making sure that issues of women are taken on board. But I'm looking at a situation whereby I want a situation whereby we don't have to talk about these issues. It's just given. It's the way of doing business. We don't have to talk about let's empower women. Let's give women money. It just has to be speak. I mean, you are doing business like everyday business. That things are just normal. It's not me lobbying or trying to come up with the strategies to support women but I want to, my tomorrow should be a situation whereby things are just as normal as eating sadza. You look at a woman the same way you are looking at a man. And when you are crafting your policies, you are looking at all these issues. The way how are they affecting women? How are they affecting men? It's for everyone. Not to say someone like me has to come and say, no, but the way you are constructing this toilet, we don't, female will not be in a position to use the urinary. Let's see, make it just comes to any engineer to say, okay, but we have men and women. Let's do things differently for men and women so that it serves a purpose for all gender. So this is the kind of tomorrow that I would want to see.
Well, I can't wait to live in that tomorrow with you.
Thank you.
Chido, thank you so very much for your time today. This has been exceptional. Thank you to everyone who has attended our success sharing session live with us. Your questions and your engagement has made this a very rich discussion as well as presentation. I want to say a huge thank you to my colleagues, Lindsay Kazarek, who has been our tech guru, and Chris Reiser, who has been our host and who has helped to work with the alumni community to bring these sessions to us all. And I am very happy to invite all of you to our next success sharing session, which will be on Earth Day and feature two of our alumni, Frew and Grace. And that'll be on April 22nd, which is Earth Day. Chido, I'll turn it back to you and Chris.
Thank you so much, Deborah. So
Thank you so
I was
much.
going to bring up the presentations for Earth Day are going to be focused on grassroots projects that Freya research faculty and Grace Williams, who is an alumna with the university. And so one is based in Ethiopia, the other one's based in West Virginia. And one is, I mean, they're both really tied to the restoration of air, earth, and water, which is connected to our university tenants. And so this was it'll be a great opportunity to hear how those two projects have some similarities as far as like mobilizing their communities for cleaning up, basically, and restoring things. Um, so I hope to see you at the next session. And I just want to say thank you so much, Chido, for sharing today, and to you, Deborah, for moderating. I appreciate you keeping the conversation going. We are officially at time, and so thank you everyone for attending. And I just think that this was a great way to start our International Women's Day festivities. So you guys have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you at the next session. Thank you, Chido. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Deborah. And you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.